Thank you all for being here tonight and on this beautiful snowy Plattsburgh night. We had a couple things on the agenda. I want to move the agenda around if anybody has it with them. What we'd like to do is, rather than taking the intro and going into my little speech that I had ready for the video, I would like to introduce Holly Sims. She is asked to be promoted to the top of the agenda because of family personal matters. So I'd like to turn the agenda over to Holly. Holly, if you can tell us, she wants to talk about the Beekman Town Central School and the issues that exist at Beekman Town Central.
My husband and I and a large group of people are part of what's called United for the Kids. You've probably read about us in the newspaper. And the group started a couple years ago with a budget fiasco at Beekman Town when the numbers got mixed up and then they tried to push it through kind of thing. So that's when our group was formed, and we've expanded to include Plattsburgh City School District, and lately Peru appears to be jumping on board, and possibly a couple other school districts. We're trying to trying to add transparency and accountability and sustainability to the way the school operates. Currently, right now, we're in budget season, and by the way, I'm no longer on the board. I was on the board from '98 to 2005. That's my background. Right now, and for the next 5 years, the school is facing an annual $3 to $4 million deficit each year. So you do the math, you know, that is a total of $12 to $15 million over the next 5 years. If they don't make cuts, this year alone, your tax levy will go up approximately 17%, assuming the budget got voted in. And I've been to all of the meetings. The Board of Education is committed to staying within the tax cap. They've all said they were committed to staying within the tax cap. So with that in mind, they're going to have to come up with cuts, a couple $1 million worth of cuts. And so there's another another budget meeting on Tuesday at 6:15 in the middle school, high school library. There are a lot of places where they could be safely cutting without hurting education. But similar to the town of Plattsburgh, they don't always want to hear what other people are saying. Even though they solicit input and ask for it, they don't always want to listen. We have noted items in the audit report. We've noted items in the schedule. We've noted items with insurance, all places where they could save a significant amount of money without cutting programs for kids. So that's kind of where we are with the budget process.
I was going to add that by cuts, it doesn't necessarily mean cutting positions or cutting programs. It just means reducing the budget amount. It may be done by a contractual concession by one of the bargaining units, for example. It doesn't necessarily mean cutting something or removing something.
Well, we're actually advocating that they don't cut any programs for kids because they can tighten up their schedule. I mean, we've got classes of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 student in the middle school and high school. We foiled all of those schedules. They're all on our website. If anybody cares, it's unitedforthekids.org. There's salaries, there's schedules, there's contracts, everything you could think of is on there if you want to go through yourself. And these are not special ed classes that are small, and we've got report card data showing not such great results in the elementary school. So we've been asking a lot of questions, and of course when you start asking public officials questions, they quickly shut you down, very much like we've experienced in the town. So, but we're not stopping, we're continuing to ask questions. So there are ways to, in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of people in our group, there are ways to balance this budget without hurting kids and without crippling the taxpayers more than we already are. Again, just another note with the tax cap, I don't know who of you noticed, New York State United Teachers has filed a suit today against Governor Cuomo, the Commissioner of Education King, and the Comptroller DiNapoli for implementing the tax cap. So they are trying to get that changed. And I don't know when that will shake out. These things usually take a while. So that's just something coming down the pike. And Okay, I mentioned the website, unitedforthekids.org. We have a lot of new updates there as well. We also have a Facebook page. We have 3 candidates that I believe are fiscally responsible who want to run and be supported by United for the Kids. Last year, we supported 3 candidates. All 3 got in. They're a minority on the board, so their hands are still tied. We are hoping that Cumberland Head Tax Association will again sponsor a Meet the Candidates this year because it was so successful. This room was filled last year. You guys got introduced to these 3 candidates, got to ask them questions, got to know them, and I think that was very successful. We'd like to do that again this year. If it doesn't have to be fancy, you can sit around like this, but we need a date and a time so that I can let these guys know if you guys are willing to do it. So I guess that's my last item on the list to talk about. And
Holly, when is the vote on the budget?
May 21st.
And if I'm not mistaken, you just said that if nothing is done, there'll be a 17% tax levy increase.
Yeah, well, I doubt the voters would vote for it,
No,
but
I
yes,
know.
that's how it would balance out.
So if a few months ago, I heard Eric say that he thought it would be an 18% tax levy increase, and I took the $1 billion, which I think is, I don't know what the taxable is in Beacon Town, but it's in the $1 billion, I think. And I think that translated to, at that time, to about $3 per thousand. So anybody, you can do the math, $3 per thousand if nothing is done with this deficit at the school this year.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Holly, when will the elections be for these 3 candidates?
It's on May 21st.
It's all the same day?
Everything's the same day, which is a Tuesday. And we'll put signs up, we'll put, you'll receive stuff in either your Press Republican box or your mailbox, I'm sure. We'll ask you to support these candidates. And there's 3 positions open and 2 incumbents are running. So more of the same if we leave those guys in there.
So I think the date available would be our April meeting. So it would be the 3rd week in April.
Unless we did it on
a different
day.
Let me see when the breaks are at school so that you guys can get the most bang for your buck. The 3rd Thursday is the Thursday the 18th. School is in session. So if you wanted to do it on that Thursday.
We're looking at April?
Yep.
Yes.
3rd Thursday.
4th, 11th, 18th.
Yeah. We have the ISAC people come in hopefully either 1st, 2nd, or 4th week in March. And I don't know, that'll probably be a special meeting. I don't see any conflicts at this point with April.
I'd say let's set it up for the regular meeting.
Okay, that would be the April 18th. Okay.
So 6:30?
Yep.
Yes.
We'll let them go first like we did last time.
What's that?
We'll let them go first like we did last time.
Okay, great. And I don't know that we need anything special. I think we just, the room is unlocked. We have it set up like this and they can sit down. We can introduce them and they can ask questions. Last year there was a presentation first. I don't know that we need to do that again. You guys just let us know what you want.
Okay.
And we'll make it happen.
Will do.
The last thing I was going to say that I forgot to mention, in the audit report, some of you know about this because you've heard this before. There is a long-term liability for retiree health care. It is $93.5 million in the Beekman Central School District. There is $0 set aside for this liability. The auditors put it in perspective, and I was at the board meeting, that they would have to set aside $27 million today if they had it. And if they had an account to put it in, they would have to set aside $27 million today to meet that obligation. That's one of the things we're trying to influence during the negotiation process. We, community residents, can't be part of the negotiation process, but we are hoping that they can negotiate a better insurance plan than the one that is costing this much money. We have 532 people on the insurance plan, most of which most of whom are retired. Most of them are not even working. So we have less people paying into the plan than we have drawing from the plan. Sound familiar? It's not like our social security system.
Did we have somebody from the press here that evening to?
We can try. That would be up
See
to
if they-
the Marketing and Communications Committee.
I was just looking at that. Yeah, to see if,
That would be great.
Yeah.
That's an
We
excellent
can
question.
put a notice on our website and maybe in the minutes, if somebody's taking minutes. I'm not sure anybody's taking minutes. Okay.
Holly, when you
she's
say,
recording this.
when you say $27 million would need to be set aside today, what does that mean exactly?
Well, if you think about present value of money, you know, if you want to have, if you're 21 years old and, or say you're just newly married and you want to set aside enough money to pay for your kids' college, if you know that if you set this much money aside and because of interest, that it'll mature to be this amount in the end. If we set $27 million aside today, and we incurred no more expenses, which isn't going to happen because it's constantly rising and insurance did not go up anymore, then as the liabilities came due, we could meet them. But already the liabilities rising by several $1 million a year.
It is an estimate.
And it's an estimate determined by actuarial analysis based on the age of the people who are retired, the age of the people who are employees, and the average life expectancy of men versus women, and they put those numbers together.
So right now, what are they doing? Pay as you go?
Yes. And it's, if your pie chart is this big of your expenses, that pie that we're paying for is constant, that section is constantly getting bigger, and it will eventually encompass the whole budget.
And this is the same that's going on at the town, pay as you go?
Yes,
Exactly.
paying with current revenue.
Yes.
They're not planning for the future.
And in fact, there's not even an account to set aside money, and I believe that's purposefully done because the state doesn't want the taxpayers paying that bill. They want it funded, through the employees, at least partially through the employees. Our retirees, with the exception of a couple people, pay nothing for their health insurance.
Why
It's
was
free.
it ever done where the employee would contribute at least 50% or 75% towards their insurance while they were working? Why? What was the benefit?
The usual.
What's the benefit? 20 years ago, they saw that the ship was sinking and they changed around a lot of insurance plans for a lot of other public employers. Never done here at Wheatley. Okay.
There's sort of a parallel with the United States Postal Service where they, a few years ago, they mandated that the Postal Service had to set aside so many $1 billion per year to pay for the long-term health care liability of their retirees. That's kind of what needs to happen here.
It's what needs to happen, or they just need to absorb more of their own cost, and it's, and it's not happening.
And possibly switch to a more affordable
And
plan.
more, yeah, I mean, with a $20,000 family plan, that's pretty darn expensive.
So,
The town of Plattsburgh has it 50/50. The retiree is 50%. and, like,
They're in a lot better shape.
If the schools did that, it would be a big plus.
so if nothing happens, you're gonna see that piece of the pie keep growing like this, which is gonna knock off teachers because
It's gonna knock off teachers, it's
teachers
gonna knock off
and
programs.
it's
It's going to
everything.
crowd out spending for the kids.
Yep.
Exactly.
Well, basically,
Or
what's
taxes
gonna
out of
happen
homes.
is what's been happening for years and years, is they're gonna raise the assessed valuations and more
Taxes out of
money,
homes.
and it's just gonna be raised through taxes.
But it's kind of getting hard to do that because the assessed values in this area are not going up, and maybe Jim can help me with this. They're not rising because of the bad housing market. So they can say your house is worth this, but then when the sales come through, right now in the town of Plattsburgh, we're looking at sales, the assessed value, the sales price being about 95% of the assessed value over last year. That's about what the dollars worked out to be.
But they still have good old sales tax that they just keep raising a quarter and 3
That doesn't go to
quarters.
schools.
That doesn't go to schools, that goes to
No,
the
it
town.
goes into
Yeah.
any of your government interests,
Right.
County or town.
I think the day of reckoning's coming. The whole thing, my whole concern and our group's concern is how these cuts are going to be made. Because the easiest thing to do is to say, well, no sports, no this class, no that class, without getting to what the real problem is. And the real problem is we've overexpended for our employees.
Well, what's your thoughts? How do you fix that? What do
You negotiate, and right now there's 3 contracts being negotiated.
That's what it is.
Exactly.
The public doesn't have a say on.
They do and they don't. They can, I mean, publicly, you can talk to board members and put pressure on them. You can talk to school employees and say, you know, I know you got to realize that the rest of us are having a hard time here, and, you know, really push them to talk to their unions. Peer pressure is something, you know, you run into somebody in Hannaford, have a conversation with them. That's what it's going to come down to.
Ultimately, you have to change the mindset on the board, which means you have to put new board members in who are willing to do the hard work of negotiating contracts with the union and making sure that the superintendent's not screwing around and that, you know, doing that hard work. And it's real hard.
Holly, what if we
And the
took,
nepotism needs to go away, and we still have some of that going on.
what if we took the position of, as we did with the town of Plattsburgh, which was unsuccessful, unfortunately, they ignored us, which is freeze the budget. Is that possible?
Well, we actually had a decrease in the budget last year, and I expect another decrease this year. The thing is, we've lost, since 2004 or 5, we've lost over 200 students out of our school. There's a net decrease, yet they hired more teachers. No kidding. I've got all the data. It's all on the website. You got to go look. And so, in fact, Clinton County has lost over 1,600 students.
So what is your mantra, if you will, when you go into these budget meetings? I mean,
good for you.
Besides kibitzing with people that you meet in the grocery, I mean, you got to have some kind of you got a campaign in your sleeve to come up with this.
Well, anytime we have a chance to make public comment, and I don't miss any of the meetings, we stand up there, you know, on the U in Beekmantown School, and let them know, you need to tighten up your schedule, you need to start bargaining affordable contracts that the taxpayers can afford. You know, you need to reconcile this looming liability and put it out there. A year ago, nobody even heard of these things. They didn't even know what they were.
And I don't know how many people read the comments on the Press Republican, but some people are getting informed about these numbers, and they're being, rather than just ranting, they're citing specific examples, linking to our website. In fact, there was an article today, a viewpoint today by the editors that plugged our website, and I can watch the traffic, and we've gotten a lot of hits this month. 2 articles actually that have referred people to our website.
Great.
And traffic has been really good. So people are getting engaged, and they're learning.
This is not a cloud moment here. I mean, just the other day there was an article in the newspaper about the city schools. Same thing going on there.
Yes.
So it's everywhere.
It is everywhere.
And it's driven by I hate to say it, but a lot of it is driven by the teachers union.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
The city's retiree health care liability is $104 million.
Yeah.
It's $10 million more than ours.
All this data is on our website.
They have a smaller population of students.
But I think, like I know in Saranac, I don't know if you have any members from Saranac.
Not yet.
But just in their chief reporter they put out, I mean, you talk about money for education. A proposed funded $371,844 federal grant will provide the Saranac campus with a 23-foot long by 10-foot wide paved pathway beginning at the Route 3 entrance of the Saranac Elementary School and go to the middle school with a box beam guardrail. $371,000. I mean, I'm looking.
Is that connecting 2 buildings?
That's connecting the two schools together, and it runs right along the highway. I went to school there. I started in 1952 and dated myself, but I have never heard of an accident or anything else along that roadway. And this is the kind of stuff that really gripes you when you think about how much money $371,000 would do in a classroom.
Right.
You know, with teachers,
right.
with updating your equipment and what have you. And I mean, it just makes you mad when you see this kind of stuff.
I agree. And Saranac is one of the more efficient schools in the area, just to let you know, according to what we researched.
Their superintendent just retired, correct? Kringle?
Yep.
He's the one who made a comment to the prospective candidate, Karen Bissell, that he could operate 3 school districts himself
Absolutely.
without any problem.
Yeah, I believe it.
And yet the law requires in New York State to have a superintendent with each school district, I believe. And that's usually a salary of 6 figures.
Oh, easily 6 figures.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
The big
It's such
town's
certification.
superintendent with compensation earns more than Governor Cuomo.
Over $250,000. And Short in Plattsburgh makes more than that.
Short?
Short.
Oh, short. Superintendent, city council.
Yeah.
Okay, you have anything else? Any other questions for Holly or John?
When's the next meeting of the
First, third, of the UFTK or of the board?
board?
The Board of Education. The budget meeting is next Tuesday, so in 5 days. And
At
that's
what time?
6:15, middle school, up at the main building, middle school, high school, library. And I don't know if there will be public comment. There generally isn't until they get further through the budget process. And the budget meetings, the regular meetings are always the second Tuesday of the month.
Any other questions for Holly? John?
I've not seen your website, but are there places for alerts on there, sample letters that we could write, things of that nature? They tend to
That's an excellent idea.
be very effective. I've gone to a number of organizations that I don't even have to go to the website. They email me alerts, and they give me sample letters to write, and they said, change the words, and who to write to, and how, would be most effective to do. Some people you can't write to, you have to send snail mail.
Yeah.
And phone calls as well.
That's an excellent idea.
We don't have it, but that's a good idea. We'll definitely work on that.
I mean, we make more work for you.
Yeah, no shortage of that.
He's the webmaster.
Have you thought of petitions as well?
We've done the petitions in the past. We don't have any active right now.
I just got a phone today, national issues.
Yeah.
Seems to be pretty effective.
Yeah,
Assuming
online it's
they're
easy to do. Good idea.
Anything else from the citizens? And Ms. Finn?
Mr.
Finn.
Mr. Finn?
That's the Holly. All right, thank you guys. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. He's the nicest looking member here.
That's your
He is.
We wanted to,
He's the best behaved.
That's right.
would you say, John?
He's the
He's
best.
the best behaved.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Sure.
I think he's the youngest too.
I vote for that dog.
Okay, who brought him in?
The other thing that we were going to do to start the meeting off was to make some comments about the past year, and I don't know if you've seen the agenda that I sent out, and it had an introductory letter which had been sanitized and brought down a few octaves. Thank you, Debbie. And needless to say, the last year for me has been a real experience in dealing with the town of Plattsburgh. This started for me, and I'd like to get into a little quick background here. You guys can take off if you want to. You don't have to stay. I know you've got obligations with your family and everything else.
All right, thank you.
Just leave the dog.
You learn a lot about people.
I'll feed him, no problem.
All right. If he stays, I'll leave.
He won't stay.
And I see that.
You guys, thanks.
Take care now. Thank you.
Thank you for rearranging that.
Oh, my
Appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Thank you. No problem.
Yes.
Anyway, let me start again from the beginning, wherever that is. Basically, we got involved in this organization at the tax issuance last year. I was approached by Debbie and another person who's no longer active. And I was thinking about this in terms of my background. I go back 5 years dealing with the town of Plattsburgh. And initially there was a subdivision proposed, 22 homes behind my house. I looked at that subdivision engineering plan. I have some experience in that, and it was atrocious. We finally had that rewritten, and luckily it got stopped. 2 years later, the town proposed a public sewer project for all of Cumberland Head. Looking at the proposed sewer project, the initial engineering plans were at best poor and expensive and improperly costed out and improperly designed, and there were no answers for the people in the public meetings. When people asked who's going to pay for electric, if I could join up with my neighbor, nobody had an answer. How deep these things were going to went, nobody had an answer. Anyway, the total cost package was about $14,000, and that was deflated. It's probably more in the neighborhood of $20,000 per homeowner today if it had been in place. Plus you'd be paying your service tax to the city of Plattsburgh. And the other thing from an environmental point of view, from my perspective, was they want to take all the sewage that's on Cumberland Head that's discharged into your private system, put them into a pipe basically, push it into the city of Plattsburgh wastewater treatment plant, and then put it into the bay. From personal experience, I know that the city wastewater treatment plant is a fairly reasonable operating treatment plant. However, it's 50 years old, it's about 50% below capacity, and it does not have any tertiary treatment. And when I say tertiary treatment, I'm talking about removing chemicals that are of a toxic nature or any pharmaceuticals that would be toxic. I've seen a lot of studies done on wastewater treatment plants within the country. Most of them do not have tertiary treatment. If you go into the bay today and you take a sample for estrogen, female hormone, or for Viagra, or for caffeine, which is a common consumption among everybody here, you're going to find it probably in quantities, plus other chemicals that you're not even aware of. This rather upset me because I knew that all of that was going to be pumped from Cumberland Head right into the wastewater treatment plant, and they were not going to upgrade it. I didn't understand the rationale behind it. I think the rationale, from my point of view, is that all they want to do is open up Cumberland Head and put in subdivisions. That was really the bottom, the genesis of this whole movement, regardless of cost of what it would have been to the taxpayer, for you and I, for flushing our toilet and sending our sewage into the city of Plattsburgh. That really got me interested in the town government, and I saw how inconsiderate they were of the taxpayers, of the residents. And we luckily defeated that in a vote, in referendum, 4-1 on December 9th, 2009, here in this firehouse. And I think that was quite a victory. And we learned a lot from that experience as well. This past year, not to go on too long, but because there's a litany of issues that we found in the past year. We had a team of individuals, Ken Cook, Jim Gray, John St. Germain, Debbie and the Cooks, all of them. Everyone looking at this budget. Holly Sims looking at it from an economic point of view. I was looking at it from a different management points of view. And we found incredible discrepancies, incredible issues in terms of how policy was being formed, who was being served, where the money was being placed in position within the town. And we're not talking about pocket change. We're talking about some substantial dollars that were being delivered and delineated, or if you will, spent into the town businesses. The process of going through the last 12 months, we finally realized that we needed to organize. And one of the things that we did learn from the sewer project is that you can't pick up, it's very difficult to try and get yourself organized in 24, 48 hours. If you have a standing organization, an organization that has members and fairly active members, you can usually pull those people together, inform everybody, and deal with the issue that's thrown out in front of you by the town board, or whoever it happens to be at the time. With this town board, there happen to be 2 or 3 issues. I believe strongly that this is one of the reasons I want to see, and I think a lot of other people want to see, an organization, whether we call it Cumberland Head Taxpayer Association, whether we call it Taxpayer Alliance of Plattsburgh, Inc., whatever it is, so that there's uniform, cohesive body, people of like mind, residents of the town, who are being basically forced into a situation and told a lot of misinformation to accept a costly project. This budget that we went through in the last 12 months was just a total eye-opener for me. I have never seen, first of all, when I was asked to come on board by Debbie, attending a town board meeting, to look at the way, to watch how they treated her and other people of the public coming in to speak to a public body. Condescending and arrogant, and don't bother me, you know, we'll come back and see me sometime in my private office, and that's the way we take care of things here. But their attitude towards the public was also portrayed in some of the concepts or speeches that Bassett gave, which he's very good at giving speeches, but he'd always refer to people in the town as Joe Voter. Okay. I don't consider myself Joe Voter. I don't think any of you do either. It's pretty condescending. Joe Voter, okay, Joe Voter doesn't accept this, that, and the other thing. And then, speaking to his colleagues in the board, he would say, well, you know, you've got to force this issue. It's like taking your kids to the dentist, kicking and screaming, but you know what's best for them. So he knows what's best for everybody. He knows what's best for us, regardless of how we object. And there were a number of other comments that were made. Body language, very defensive body language, and there is no communication between this board and the public. During the course of the events in the last couple months, we have on video one of the individuals coming in from Route 22 with a $400 water bill. That person had been there before with that $400 water bill. Completely upset, couldn't figure out why, checked all the systems, and he was told to come back and see me during the week and we'll work it out. We got a meeting coming up sometime soon on this issue. My sense is that person had been there prior, a month or 2 before. What I wonder is how many people also got inflated water bills from the town of Plattsburgh for the public water system and just said, well, okay, I guess I used a lot of water and I'm going to pay it this month. And they accepted that higher fee, that erroneous fee. It was not correct. How many people have paid that bill that really can't afford to, that are on fixed incomes like Medicare or retirement pensions, or just lost their pensions? There seems to be, at least my interpretation, is that there's no regard and no consideration for any of us. If they think they know what's best, it's going to move through, and they're going to push it. And the case in point, case in point was the most recent during the last budget sessions, going through the consolidation of the municipal lighting districts, and there were 9 of them. That's 9 independent, separate, discrete voting districts. They have been in the books for a number of years. They all had taxing power. The idea that somebody got, I think it was Mr. Lemoy, was to consolidate all of these districts into one using Article 17A of state law, which they took the discretion, consulted one of their attorneys at $450 an hour in Albany, Mr. Jack Padner, and he said, you can do it, it's fine. It's not illegal. They took his okay, and they pushed the project. It's an inflated project. It makes absolutely no sense to me. There were $356,000 in an escrow fund that was sitting there. People who were in those lighting districts were getting overtaxed because nobody monitored it, and now it's consolidated into one district. Those of us who have not been in a district before are now in the district. I think it's about 10% of the population. But we were denied, however, and the principle is it's not the money. My municipal lighting charge now per month is like $10 more a month. It's the principle. We were denied our right to vote on that issue. And they said, too bad, we don't care, we're going to take it and go with this and consolidate it. And I don't know why. There's no savings. Ken Cook has shown and demonstrated his analysis. There's no savings. It's going to take them 10 years, projected out by Mr. Lemoy in his numbers, which I thoroughly question, that's going to, the period of time it will take them to reach equity in that account. That's one issue. I mean, there were a number of issues that we found, and it's gotten to the point where you realize that there is very little concern for the individuals who live in this town, and they really don't care what the impact is once they do this assessment or come up with a new idea for bringing in services and imposing those through a tax fee on the residents. I do believe that, you know, the snow removal and water service, and I don't know about the sewer, it's okay. It's pretty good, it's decent. But for what we're paying, it's incredible. Other issues, internal controls within the financial department. If these people were bankers that are running that town right now, they'd be broke. It's like Silverado. I mean, if anybody remembers Silverado, that was a Bush, I believe, was involved in that. And what we found is that there are no internal controls. Not only us, but the New York State Comptroller's Office tracked it back to 2003 with an audit, finding that internal controls were missing. 2010, with the most recent report by AF&R, Abbott, Frenier, and Russell, reports that they cannot account for 29% and another 7%. We totaled it up to roughly $650,000 in just the water and sewer department receivables. They cannot account for it. We brought that up to Mr. Bassett's attention about a week ago in a meeting in the back of the bus there, what I call the back of the bus, which is the working session, and which is not public comment. And I said to him, this is your report card. This audit is your report card. If you're running a financial organization providing services, this report card tells you you got 1 F. That is not a passing grade from what these accountants are telling you. It's not only been going on for 1 year, this has been going on for 4, 5, 6 years. What they've finally done is hire an accountant. They hired the same accountant who had worked for the New York State Comptroller's Office, who did the report in 2010, and they brought him on board to straighten out the books. I think it's very poor management, it's sloppy management, and it's incompetence. I have seen incompetence before, but never like this in county government. It's unbelievable, city government, town government. In my background, I go back, I've had about 5 years working in hospitals, nursing homes when I worked for the state of New York and Albany, doing a lot of management work, a lot of management assessments on large budgets. And this is a, they are duping us. They are doing with our tax money what they damn well please and telling us, too bad, you don't like it. And Marty Mannix turned to us last week and said, we heard what you had to say and we're going to do what we want to do. I believe that's probably not a direct quote, but it was pretty close to it. They don't care. They just don't care. I don't think they have ever been shocked to the point that they were in our budget presentation. There were 8 of us, and it's a video, you can see it online at our website, as they were, I believe it was November 17 in the budget presentation that we made. And there were 8 people lined up, and each of us went after various segments of the budget and various issues that we found in the review in the last year. And I think they just reeled from that. They didn't know how to deal with it. Mr. Bassett didn't know how to turn the meeting off. He didn't know how to control, he lost control from his perspective. As a matter of fact, an internal memo to the staff said that we terrorized the board. We terrorized the board. And I take that really as such inflammatory language, especially in this day and age of 9/11 and Al-Qaeda and all this jazz that's out there in the news, and we're being accused of hijacking a meeting. It was just beyond reason. So that what they did as a countermeasure to that was they took us, or the public, and put us into the work session. Took us off the videos, so we're no longer on their recordings, which is their suit and tie sessions, where they go through pro forma process and everything looks lovely and fine. Then you go into the work sessions where you're able to talk being a member of the public. That's why I'm here. I really don't appreciate the way my tax money is being spent, especially on the town level. I don't like the way they're treating people. I believe that we all are equal and we have a right to speak publicly. Perhaps it's a privilege, that's debatable, and it's taken away. It basically was taken away, or we shoved it to the back of the bus. You can still speak, but you're not going to be, not that they ever heard us before anyway, they never listened. So that kind of motivated me for the last 12 months. Everything we did, and I think we showed a tremendous amount of material where there's discretion and there's people being hired that shouldn't be hired, there's overstaffing in the business office. You've got two, three people more than they need. There have been vacant positions carried, and the expenditures or the dollar amounts in those vacant positions have been carried forward, so that's part of the tax package, okay, for years. The auditors, I don't know if I mentioned, they found $675,000 they can't account for. My concern is that, you know, we all pay taxes and we're all trying to be responsible. We all run a household in some fashion or another, and we know where the income and the outgo is, and you keep track of that, so you have a balance. My concern is that there is no internal control, and when you have that type of money available and unaccounted for, it just becomes a temptation for anybody who has access to that money. Mr. Sean Garvey found it out up in Hyundai Garvey. This past year, one of his internal accountants hit him for $975,000, I think it was almost $1 million, and he had no clue. That's my concern, is that operation is so loosely run and the lack of internal controls, it's a very tempting pot of money to try and pilfer, or try and not pilfer, but to put your hands on it. So that's an issue, and I'm not sure that anybody has created any internal controls or barriers and checks and balances internally. And I know from experience and discussions with Mr. Bassett during the course of the past year that he has no concept of financial management. None. Absolutely zero. We finally got him to read the book on cash flow and escrow funds and that type of thing, and he admitted that he was learning something. So we did accomplish something then.
Well, he didn't learn too much, Jack, because in the last work session, he stated that he didn't do the supervisor's financial report, that the finance manager did.
But he signed.
So he's still
He's a great delegator. Yeah, David?
Is there any kind of state, maybe a division of the Attorney General's office or regulatory commission that would look into this and
New York State Comptroller is supposed to be the...
Comptroller is supposed to be the oversight body for town operations. And the thing is, let me ask you, I know where you're going. When this municipal lighting department was being consolidated from 9 into 1, and people were being denied the right to vote on this because it is a taxation process, I called the state comptroller and spoke with someone in Glens Falls. And his first response was, oh, it sounds like the town of Plattsburgh has geographic creep. Okay, and that was it. They weren't interested. They didn't think they could do anything about it. We pushed this issue to Jan Dupre. She just quoted us the 17As. One of the attorney who's working with us now, our friend and local resident here, Bill Favreau, is livid about this. He thinks it was unjust and basically unconstitutional for us to be denied our right to vote. I think that the state comptroller has probably, I can't speak for them, but bigger fish to fry than the little town of Plattsburgh up here in the North 40. North of New York City is Westchester. So where are we?
Canada.
My experience working in Albany. Where are you? Oh, you're in the North Country. Yeah, well, I'm in Albany. That's even in the woods for people in New York.
Well, but one of the problems you have in that right now is in 2010, the Assembly asked the resolution that you can dissolve towns and
Villages.
the villages. And the other thing is they can now create water districts, sewer districts, and everything else. And before, it always used to have to go to a referendum, public referendum for a vote, like you did with your sewer. But now, they don't have to do that anymore. The town board can just arbitrarily vote in a majority, 3 votes, and they can make you take water, sewer, anything they want to give you. And that's why you people out here now are in a lighting district. My big concern up in Katyville is I got nice spring water. I don't want town water. I fought 2 years to keep town water out of there, and they started at the first house past mine. And, but it took a lot for me, you know, a couple of years and $2,300 to be able to achieve that. But even at that, I saved a lot of money, plus I don't have chlorinated water. But now the problem is, like with the lighting district, they just arbitrarily shove it right down your throat whether you want it or not. And so the government is getting just walking right over us, and if we don't wake up.
In a way, you could say it's tyranny. If you really want to use some hyperbole, I guess it is tyranny. It is to me. This lighting district thing is an abomination. I really would like to monitor the purchasing practices of that lighting district of the town when they go out to purchase new equipment, because one of the town councilors, Lamoy, works for Murray Electric, and we want to make sure that it's a fair and equitable bidding process that when it goes out for these, and we're talking about substantial money here, we're talking probably $500,000 buying equipment over the course of the next 2 or 3 years, if not more. And
Could I say something about
Sure, go ahead.
when this, and Dave was at the public hearings on this lighting district. I think when it was formed, the town was really clueless. I know at the public hearing, I asked some questions about would there be a public referendum? Oh yes, oh yes. Well, if you're going to have a public referendum on this, how many votes do we need for the petition? Oh, we don't know, but we think it's 50, or we think it's 100, and nobody had a clue. So the following week, they said they'd get back to us, and they gave us numbers which were totally spurious, didn't have anything to do with the whole project, if you remember that. And then finally, after another week, they came back and said, oh, no, you don't get to vote. So I don't really think they even knew what the process, not the attorney for the town, not the town board members, nobody knew how this was supposed to come down. They hadn't a clue what they were doing.
The other thing, there was this obscure sentence, I think it's a 1-sentence paragraph, that says something about that this district could somehow, other services could come under this district. And I asked them directly, what does this sentence mean? And they said, I don't think it means much of anything. That was the answer we got. It was pretty obvious that they could, as John's indicates, put whatever they want in there.
Yeah.
In theory, they could put sewer, they could put...
Yeah, they can shove that sewer right back down your throat.
And you know it's gonna come back.
And only goes to town board vote, and you're stuck with it unless, the only out we have, and that's what's good about having a group like this, is that we can force it through petition to a public referendum in a vote, and if we vote it down, then they can't do it. I think they have to wait like 4 years or something like that.
That's stopping them from saying 17A. 17A says that you can...
17A says that if you get everybody, you have to allow everybody in the town to vote.
We're saying, you say that we can petition to get a vote.
Yep.
We didn't get a vote on the lighting district.
Didn't petition.
You didn't petition. If we would have petitioned for it, we could have stopped it.
Are you
by,
But the petition would have had to be the entire town of Plattsburgh.
and it would have had to be passed by the voters in an election. And you can do it. I mean, we did it with the superintendent's used to be a 2-year term, and we extended it to 4 years. We did it by petition.
Didn't I
by vote.
just hear somebody say that you were told that they didn't need to petition this?
Right, what they don't have to do is put it up to a permissive referendum.
That is allowing the people to vote
Right.
whether they want it or not. Now it's
Before it was
been.
mandatory, it went to permissive referendum. Now it's not anymore.
Because again, my concern is that this is just a test run. They're testing the water to see what this lighting district. Now they'll say, okay, that was successful, we want sewage.
Exactly.
More ways to generate revenue.
Exactly. That's
everybody's
the way I
concern.
think it too, is that the municipal lighting department that they created a flat tax, or not a flat tax, but it's a discretionary tax based on cost for each of the users. That's a newfound piggy bank. It literally is a new source of revenue and a piggy bank for them. I'm not lacking internal controls in the operation. Who's to say they're not going to take some of that revenue and float it into some other little pet project? I really believe this organization, and I have a lot of faith in people that live out here, because I think people really care about how they're being taxed and how their money is being spent, and especially in these times, fiscal difficulty is an understatement. People are losing their jobs. There's talk about industries closing down, and the industries that they do bring in, the town brings in, are minimum pay jobs at best that I've seen, and they're subsidized. These industries are all subsidized by our tax money. That in itself is another whole issue that really needs to be addressed. The local development corporation, we found a lot of issues within the LDC, illegal proceedings, we believe to be illegal, that are going on. They don't care. They're getting away with it, and nobody's watching, even the comptroller.
Well, one of the other big things they did is the North Country Mall out here, they got a grant for $2.5 million. And they used part of that $2.5 million to help Mr. Edelman finish the Cumberland 12 theater, and they tore down that whole mall for Mr. Akey. Now, if you or I owned a house or a building or anything else, do you think they'd give us the money to tear something like that down? It never should have been allowed. They said that they used it for water district improvements around that area. Yeah, they put maybe $200,000 into that. The other $2.3 million went to Akey and Edelman.
In fact, Mr. Edelman came into a town meeting and showed, I don't know who was there that night, but anyway, showed his new project that it was a public hearing. He was going to propose indoor soccer and X, Y, and Z, and all this stuff that he was going to build up there behind, by the bowling alley and behind Cumberland 12. And I asked him some questions, and of course, that was all contingent on another $2.5 million, which never came through. So of course, aloha, and he doesn't even have a permanent sign there. If you've noticed, he's got a temporary sign on little legs of some sort out in front. He hasn't even finished the project.
Well, the disclosures within the audit are really eye-openers, and I have a couple of extra copies for anybody. I think I distributed a few around here. John, if you want to take one. This is from Gavin Friendly, AFNR 2010. One of the items they do mention in there is that the town received a energy efficiency grant 2009, 2010, and it was administered internally by Mr. Mannix. They couldn't find any records to account for the receivables and payables, and they finally got that squared away 2 years after the fact in 2012. We don't know how much money was involved in that energy efficiency grant, how the money was spent, but I really question, and I'd like to hopefully get a foil that information and find out just where it all went. And I think this organization, as a taxpayer association, is a good watchdog for the town, and there's a lot of other issues in Pekin Town Central, but we're a small group, and we really need more people. We need more members. If you have neighbors and friends in the town that you can bring into the meetings, please do. The committees are small. This is our committee for marketing right here.
There's more.
Doing a hell of a job. The bylaw committee is like 2 or 3 people. And, you know, I've got other commitments and other demands on my time and my day. And it's somewhat difficult to juggle all the balls and keep them in the air at the same time. I think you can relate to that. So we're asking for assistance. Anything you can do. You got skills. You got certain issues that you want to correct or what have you that you're aware of. And you can bring in people, members. And we're in the process of rewriting the bylaws right now. So we think there's a lot of potential here. There's a lot of good people here. We did a crack up job. I mean, honestly, from my perspective, going back to my days in public health and before that, we did an incredible audit on the town of Plattsburgh's performance and fiscal operations for 2011, 10, and going forward, 12, and going into 13. We found things.
Rattled their cage.
We found things that they weren't aware of. Okay, and it's just it's an embarrassment. It should be to them, and it's an insult to us because it's our money. And it's like, you know, why am I paying these taxes again? Why are we subsidizing this particular little pet project or this individual who's on staff? Why haven't those management issues of internal controls and people who have been there for too long and are now fighting the system and change, why haven't they been dealt with from a management perspective? The bottom line that I've come to is that I know now, and then we'll probably take this off the video later, Rocky, that the school systems are in such trouble because we have people, as we have now, as a supervisor who was a school principal or whatever they managed or tried to manage in the schools that they were in. I don't get it. I mean, the competency of these individuals is highly questionable. Highly questionable. If that's what's running our schools, we're really in trouble. That's all I got to say. I mean, really. I know when I work, I had to be accountable for just about every buck that we asked for or we expended. Or I was drawn in the carpet. And I don't see that happening. I don't see it happening here. And we need to do that. And we need to find ways to do that. And the best way that we're going to do it is by increasing membership, getting people involved, and getting them to speak up different manners, different media outlets, or whatever we can do. So we ask for your help. Glad to see some new faces. A hell of a challenge ahead of you. You want to keep your taxes down and keep Cumberland Head the way it is. We need your help. Join us.
Could I'd like to say that,
Please.
just to add what Jack had to say, apart from being the watchdog, if I can say that, for the school and for the town taxes, we want to educate people about how they are taxed, because we found that a lot of people don't know how they're taxed. I remember asking one chap, tell me how you're taxed. And he said, well, the town, no, not the town. The town may collect your taxes, but they're not the ones who issue the tax. The tax is issued by the county, and so on and so forth. And most people just don't really understand how we're taxed and why we're taxed and what all those little SSDP debug means, or, you know, consolidated lighting district. They don't understand what that all means. They just kind of write the bill. And we wanted to educate the public about their taxes so they understand it, so they realize that they need to keep an eye on things in order to keep our taxes in check.
Do you know why that is?
Why what is? Why people don't know?
Because we were all educated in government schools.
There you go. With these
I mean,
administrators.
really, how many of us were taught basic economics in high school? You were?
I went to
We went to Catholic school.
Well, okay, but most.
No, that's true.
Well, I think with the new lighting district that they formed, that when their budget numbers come out a year from now, or whenever they do the budget, it should be very easy for us to say, okay, this is the income, this is the expense, and it should all balance out. And if it doesn't, or they're siphoning money from that to put someplace else where they shouldn't be putting it, we will know that we should be able to track that fairly easily, hopefully. And if it's not transparent, then we should be able to ask the questions and find out, get the answers.
Thank you. That's the key word, transparency and accountability. That's something that I think is this organization's watchwords, at least from my point of view. I know the attorney feels the same way. And we don't have it. We don't have it. There is no transparency and there is no accountability. They can't even have accountability to New York State contract. So how are they going to be accountable to us? Unless you give a diatribe of gray water espoused by some of the leadership in the town of Cumberland. So that we need to look over their shoulders, to keep them in check, to keep their feet to the fire, as they say. And it's not an easy task. It's not an easy task because people, you know, you vote for this person, you think they're okay, and you go to sleep. You go back and you don't go to sleep, you go do your other demands because those people are taken care of. We like to think that they're taking care of us. I see very little recognition of the public's caring attitude for us. Nowhere in that budget, not once was there, the people would like, or we are concerned about the people. Not once did one of those legislators mention they're concerned about the public. And that just really caught me. I mean, it's
Yeah, but their constituents.
Well, you pay up and you go out. That's it. It's like going through whatever. And the mantra of Bassett is big box stores. That's all he wants.
Well,
Strip malls.
brings me to a point. I mentioned that last, like the work session about, if you look at national debt, it's going up exponentially. I said those kind of things never end well. They always end in disaster. I'm trying to get Bassett to see that we aren't a little island. He likes to think that we're some kind of jewel or gem in the North Country or in the whole world, that somehow the town of Plattsburgh is different and it can escape all these national trends in terms of debt and so forth. And he really believes that, I think. But there was an article I saw, it was referenced to the Wall Street Journal. And I commented, I think, about the mall, the box stores and so forth. Here's some interesting figures. Best Buy, which I think there's one of those out here, right? Okay. They have 1,056 stores nationally. They're planning to close 200 to 250 this year. Their stock last year was down 39%. Sears and Kmart are essentially the same organization. They have a total number of stores, 2,100 stores nationally. Sears is going to close between 100 and 125, Kmart between 175 and 225, so that's potentially 375 stores out of 2,100. Penny's, 1,100 stores nationally, they're going to close 300 to 350. The stock is down 54%. Walmart, simply stated, I think the CEO says it's the worst January start they've seen in 7 years. And it doesn't mean these stores necessarily going to close, but what it tells us is these larger corporations are in a great deal of difficulty. And I wonder, I think what's happening, the whole concept of marketing, I suspect, is changing with the internet. And these stores, these big malls are becoming superfluous. And I think that, and that's what I'm going to hit these folks with next meeting, is this information. I mean, they've got to begin to think outside the box. And at the very end of it, Bernie said, this last meeting, this is a wonderful place and it's great.
It's Camelot.
I was going to say,
we're lucky to Canadian
some of my relatives and have them move here. This is what they're going to do.
I also read a few days ago, or a couple weeks ago, that there are over 700 malls in the United States that will be closing this year.
And if that mall gets into trouble.
Yeah, if the Canadian dollar goes sky high again.
Right.
The North Country's in trouble.
Yes.
So, you know, even though it may be rosy and things are exciting in Plattsburgh, maybe it really isn't.
Well,
I think we know the truth and we know the difference, and we don't buy this lie of everything is rosy in Camelot, because we looked under that facade and we found a cancer, I would say, in terms of management, and in terms of operations, and in terms of internal controls, and in terms of attitude towards the public. You don't treat the public, we are their boss. I mean, Dick Butt said this way back when. God bless him in Florida, but he did say, you know, we are their boss. We pay their salary, and we get no recognition. It's just incredible to me. We're spending more time on this than I wanted to. We're going to have to go through and edit this later, right, Rocky?
Billy,
And, Billy, you got something to add?
You know, when he says bring this big box in and bring, hey, look what Walmart does. They bring it in, they give you minimum wage, part-time, and then when you say, hey, I'm not making it, and they tell you, what? Go to social services and get you benefits that you're entitled to.
Right.
Which is another burden on the residents.
Exactly.
Taxpayers.
Exactly right. Just as an aside, and this will be the last one, is that when we were at one of the meetings, and we have had tremendous support for whatever reason from Ducky Drake and Wire Radio, and I just want to publicly thank him for that support. But one of his broadcasts was on a particular day a few months ago. Mr. Bassett happened to be going around the town of Plattsburgh, Consumer Square, I believe it was, and he was with the private ownership group that owns one of the malls. It was Consumer Square, maybe.
Big Sam's.
And he made the comment to the board and the public in that meeting that I just hope that those people that I was with didn't hear Ducky Drake on the radio, because that would be a negative taint on his little Camelot. I mean, that's how he thinks. I can tell you, if they lift up the goods, they're going to find more than a taint. They're going to find some real nasty stuff. And we did. And that's why we're speaking from the workroom. So we're trying to find alternatives to the workroom, and I think we have. Thanks to Rocky and Debbie, we have videotaping. We'll put this on channel 15. Once it's edited in some kind of format that looks presentable. And we'll do this on a regular basis, and we're going to do the work sessions as well as the general put on a certain time meeting. I gotta get away from that.
Okay. Onward and upward.
I think we've made a lot of progress in the last year. We're going to make a lot more this year. We have a pretty full agenda. And you got a quick question, Bill? Go ahead.
Yeah, we're going to broadcast these. How about an open invite? And
That's what I'm working on.
not just necessarily to Cumberland Head.
No.
No, we want
The
to.
membership is now the town of Plattsburgh. We're going to get that out there.
Even if it means us going to other fire stations
Right.
in different neighborhoods.
Yep.
So we are going to have an open invite on these.
Yeah, and our residents in the town of Plattsburgh. With that, I'd like to get to the agenda because we got some things we really got to talk about also. And that is number one, we got the bylaws. I received the workup draft from Bill Favreau today. I sent e-copies to Debbie, to Ken, I believe, to Jim, and also Andy Brockway, who was interested in, I believe, working with us on this. So that's moving ahead. And John got a copy also, I got a hard copy. But Bill was good enough to work through the bylaws, put it in some confirmation of law. And at this point, this juncture, because of the last year, we've had a lot of approaches from people within the town asking, can I join too? Are you exclusively Cumberland Head? And we're saying, well, maybe we're going to think about that. So what we'd like to do is open up the membership to Cumberland, to the town of Plattsburgh. And we'll be talking about this in the near future. Hopefully bring these bylaws up for adoption in the month of April at the general meeting that we'll have on the third Thursday.
March or April?
April, I'm looking at April.
Okay.
Because there's a couple of committees, a committee to sit down and go through the bylaws first before we bring the whole thing to the board and have at least a quasi-finished product for the general membership to digest. Treasurer's report, Marcia Cook is on board, and it's good to see you here, Marcia.
We have a total of $411.05 in our treasury.
411. 5.
411.05.
How many members do we have right now?
No, I couldn't tell you. Don't ask me.
All right, we'll skip that question.
Now, I gotta
Will
just put
there
it
be
that
a charge, a corporate charge?
Yes. If
Do you
a
know
corporation
what-
wants to join?
No, a corporation.
Oh, you're talking about process. Yeah, there will be.
So you have to keep that in mind, that, you know, of the $411.05 that we have, if you have to pay corporate taxes of $75 or whatever it's gonna be, you gotta make sure you keep that on.
I think it's $100 flat fee.
Whatever it is, I don't know, but, so keep that in mind.
Anybody want to contribute to the kitty and we'll build it up to 421?
421 now.
Pass
think
that
we
around.
have-
Here's a,
21 paid members.
Make sure it gets all the way down to the river.
It's kinda like being in church.
right. With even more blessings. These.
Okay, next.
Next one is the marketing report. We have our committee chair, Jim Gray, with us. Jim's going to give us a report. We got it sent out today. Ken, that's for you. And Jim's done an incredible job on this, and we need to make some decisions here tonight.
What Jack said earlier is very important. The more members we have, the louder voice we have. And that's going to carry a lot with the town board and the school board. So what we've done is we've now expanded where when we started the bylaws, it was going to be Cumberland Head residents and we had parameters. We've now expanded that to the town of Plattsburgh just to get more members and to get more involved. And as Bill said, you know, we've got to go out and talk to the other communities within the town besides doing this marketing. Now what I've done with the marketing is, as we talked about just now with the budget, the most important thing is finding the free announcements. Things that we can do that don't cost the association funds. So what we've got is we've got the web page, Facebook, handouts. I'm trying to get a link so that we'd be on the town web page. We'll see how that goes. And then the community calendars. And then I did 5 different publications and radio, finding out what their costs would be. And it varied because they all were giving me different sizes and so forth. And talking amongst the committee, which is Debbie, Ken, and Brian, myself, is that the ads really have to be bigger. The postage size stamp ads, we don't feel carry as much weight. And the canvas I've been doing, people aren't reading. I can't find a lot of people that read the Berg on a regular basis. I can't find a lot of people that read the Weekly. And when I talk to people that read the Press Republican, many of them only read the web page. And nobody I found reads the community calendars. So it's difficult to try to figure out how we should spend the money. And the good thing is that we really don't want to do anything to the April-May timeframe when the summer residents get in and we've got more of a base to work with. So we've got time to work on that. But right now, you know, I'm saying right now we need an estimated budget of $300. And that's really for a one-shot deal with one of these publications and the radio. But I really don't know how effective that's going to be. I'd much rather find free stuff. And, you know, I just demonstrate here what we've done so far. Obviously, we have to finalize the association name. So we're not out there as the Town Alliance of Plattsburgh or the Taxpayers Alliance of Plattsburgh. Or we can still keep it CHTA and just say it's always open to town members and keep that continuity. That's something that's got to be talked about.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of misleading if you say CHDA. People get this wrong impression and they think they're exclusionary. That's why I wanted to open it up to the town. I don't know if you want to see anything you did.
I'm kind of looking at the legal question, and I'm just not sure. But like right now, yes, we are the Cumberland Head Taxpayers Association, Inc.
Right.
Could we, legally wise, add to this DBA, doing business as?
Yeah.
So that we wouldn't have to change, I don't know if we'll have to change our tax number and all that if we do it that way. If we do it where we're going to totally change our name,
Right.
we probably will have to totally refile with the state and everything else and all that. I'm not sure. I think we will. I don't believe
I think
the
you're right.
realities of it. But I'm just wondering if we still were just the Taxpayers Association, Inc., current, so tax number, doing business as,
I think we can.
whatever, that we might be able to circumvent having to totally reapply.
Yeah, you don't
the
want
tax
to
number.
redo what we've done and what we spent money on. I mean, we spent
Exactly.
money to do that.
So I don't know who, I don't know.
What did Bill say?
I did check with Bill, I did ask Bill this, and he recommended that we change the name with the Department of State. There'll be a refiling. I
okay.
think it's like 50 or 75 bucks.
Do you keep the same EIN and all that?
They would probably assign a new tax number.
New tax number?
It'll probably change.
Yeah, they would change it. Yeah, if the name changes, the
Right,
tax
and
number would
to
change.
me, that's not a big hurdle. I see bigger hurdles down the road, filing this 501c.
With the feds.
That's,
Oh, yeah, that's,
I'm pushing that out of my mind, that's like 6, 7, 9 months down the road, to get some experience, but we do have to go back to Department of State and refile.
So we have to do that before the 23rd of June. There's a cutoff date there.
Okay?
That's what my daughter,
Jim, so you did some, who reads a newspaper here? When you read the newspaper, do you read the ads?
The ads never.
Yeah.
That's what I'm finding.
So,
There's not one
so,
thing there.
so $300
It's
for
wasted.
one would be a waste.
You're better off going through the mail service and everybody getting a folder in their mailbox, because everybody goes picks their mail. You get a piece of paper like that, you put in your mailbox.
Was that you that sent an email to me about that?
No.
Well, we can do it through the post office, though, we have to actually have the mail.
Yeah, but that's.
Or,
I do a mail,
so none of you read the ads
never.
when you read the newspaper?
No, I'm not finding any.
Do you watch cable TV channel, Public Access 15?
Don't go.
Not on.
No. Do you do Facebook?
No.
Do your kids do Facebook? Yeah. And that's how, this kind of network happens, is on the Facebook.
That's a big.
But none of you do that. Do you do Twitter?
It depends what your target market is. If your target market's at 60 and above,
Well, I
you're
get
on Facebook, it's not gonna
Do you
happen.
go on websites?
That's a good question that he just raised.
No,
What's
that's
the
true.
Target market. And who are we
Target
trying
market.
to get involved in this as an organization? Are people probably
40 and above.
30 plus?
Exactly.
I think your target market has to be the people that pay their mortgage,
Right.
their taxes are on their payment every year, and have absolutely no clue what their taxes are.
oh,
I
yeah.
talk to so many people, I ask everybody, how much taxes you pay? No clue, I just paid this a month. They don't
Oh, it's on the
know.
mortgage.
It's on their mortgage
Yeah.
payment. They don't know. They couldn't tell you if it goes up or down. Until that bank sends them a note saying you owe us an extra $100 or $10 more a month or whatever it is. The only people that know what their taxes are in general are the ones who have paid their houses off, or the ones who have checked off that they want to get their tax sent to their houses. He gets his taxes sent to the house.
But I know-
I own my home, I don't have a mortgage, and I see every cent that it goes up.
I can go to the post office and get a mailer that would only, they'll do a list of just town residents and send it out to town residents. I don't know what cost right now, let me find out the cost.
But everybody will see it that way.
Yes, that's probably the best solution I've heard so far. With all the other ones I've researched and,
Well, the other gentleman,
So look into that.
That's phenomenally expensive.
Individual managed.
Now, what about a sticker on the newspaper?
Let me, somebody sent me an email late this afternoon by the name of Hart. And I sent it on to you. I guess you never had a chance to see it. But he had a suggestion, it was like 15 cents a mailing to get this information out. And let's see if I can find it.
well, I know the post office has come out with some plans trying to get more mailers out there. So I think it might be different than when you did the sewer district.
Yeah.
You know, they're losing money and everything else. Because I know in Realty, they come to us and said, give us your region and we'll put out mailers for you.
Also, those of you who get the newspaper, do you ever notice when sometimes there's a little yellow sticker on the front?
Always in the wrong
Do you
spot.
look at that?
Always covers up there.
Yes, it covers up what I want to read.
I feel it off the front of my.
Everybody, okay. I mean, it's important to know.
I think Facebook is important. I don't look at it, but my wife does, my kids do. A lot of people pay attention to that. When I get home at night, my wife tells me all
A lot of people, I know.
That's free, that's free.
That's the good part.
And we have that hooked to our website now,
Yeah,
so.
we have a Facebook.
There's a number of issues with these new applications on the web, Facebook being one, Tweet, et cetera. So they're all corporations now. They've all gone in the stock market, they're pushing advertising and pricey, and it's getting really busy. It's getting really good, but they're still not charging to use it at this point in time. My sense is they will at some point in the future.
But it's still a huge network.
It's just my corporate bent, yeah.
I'm going to a course next week on it.
Excellent. Good for you. You can teach us how to use it.
Hey, John, under current free announcements, everybody reads letters to the editor and speak out. A well-written letter from the.
Yes, it's true.
So we should speak up.
Somebody wants to write one for me?
How about cheers and jeers? Do they read that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they do.
Okay, so all that stuff.
So letters to the editor and speak out.
And cheers and jeers. I don't know who's responsible for cheers and jeers stuff.
The reception at the local
Is it the
press
editor?
has been not very positive as well. Press Republican is very negative towards this group. One of our members approached Lois Claremont 8 months ago, and the first thing that was said was that you don't like Bassett because you're a Republican and he's a Democrat. And it was just an insane comment coming from the editor of the Press Republican.
They're extremely liberal.
And
They're to the left of
so
Castle.
we don't go to, and as well, just give these guys some historical on the sewer project. They did the coverage. It was all pro sewer, it was pro town, pro Bernie, pro everything else. And this reporter that covers the speak for the town of Plattsburgh is Dan Heath. And it seems, and it's a fact, we've seen it done, where a script will be handed to him by Mr. Bassett. Well, here's the message for the day, thank you very much. And he'll just record it, send it off, and get his $50. When I approached him after the vote here for the sewer project, I don't know what room was this, and I said to the reporter, Dan Heath, I said, can I say a couple things to you to get on into the press? And he said, go away.
John, you advertise on the website, on the press website. Does that get you a lot of business? No, it's not worth it.
There's only, I'll tell you, if you're doing any
I know it's expensive.
visible advertising, like in the press or any of these magazines, it's been shown, and I was told this years ago, without somebody's photograph in it, you might as well not bother. You put a person's face in the ad.
Well, yours is plastered all over the one in the ad in the newspaper.
Well, that's why. I mean, it's a picture about 10 years ago. There's a reason I leave that one in there. But without doing that, the big advertisers, we've launched funeral director groups that are huge, and there are people in there that would make my funeral home look like it's tiny. But they'll tell you with their advertising budgets what works and what doesn't.
But you don't think you're getting your money's worth from that ad? Because you do have it a lot and it's large.
No, yeah, and the paper, the one on the paper.
I'm talking the one on the website.
The website. I've not had a lot of feedback on that. The one on the paper I have. And when we did a TV ad series a number of years ago. It was tremendously expensive. We did it with another funeral home outside of our area, but in the same TV coverage. And it got a tremendous amount of response.
Oh, that's good.
But it was tremendously expensive.
It's very expensive, yeah.
I mean, there's very few things you're going to do in advertising that are going to get you a lot. I'm thinking your record is what's going to speak of you. And I've heard this group a number of times. It wasn't until I met John at the waiting room at the car place, and he spoke to me about it. I really thought, I need to come to this. But I can't imagine the comptroller's office in New York State not wanting to know that there's $600,000 missing.
Oh, they know. They told them that. Matter of fact, 2 times, and nothing's done about it. Or no, I'm sorry, it is done. What the town does is puts together, and they work in earnest. How do they put that? Earnest meetings or dedicated meetings to put together this plan of correction. And this is 2 years prior to when the last audit came up and said, you got the same problems. So they're saying on paper that they're willing to comply, that they will comply, and promising they will be good, and they will go for the 8. But every year, they end up with an F, okay? I mean, really, it's just, if you ran your business like this, John, you would be bankrupt, okay? If you didn't have a guaranteed income flow every, you know, it's just.
You know what, John? That's the national problem.
Right.
There's no rule of law in this country.
No, well, the problem you got with the comptroller aspect of it is I went to Albany, and I asked the guy there, I said, how come the comptroller doesn't come up and audit our books anymore? I've been on the board for 7 years, and the comptrollers never came. And I said, I know there's things being done that are not right. And he said, well, what are they? I'll come out and take a look at them. Come to find out, the comptroller that looked at he looked at one thing, the buying of vehicles, it didn't go out to bid, and it was over $20,000. It was Gary Gifford, and he lives right here in Cumberland Head. They told me that all the comptrollers, they had cut 50% of the administrative in the state, and so there was nobody left to do any of this kind of work anymore, and so they don't come, and that's the whole problem.
Bill?
If and when new members start rolling in, we need to ask, how did you find us?
Right.
So we can focus and expand on that.
Yeah.
Instead of going down.
How did you find us? From
Bobby.
Bobby, oh Bobby, so word of mouth,
That's
it's all
marketing.
word of mouth so far.
Best marketing tool. Anybody have any following suggestions for Jim or?
Well, just to support what John said, if you look at most real estate ads, they got a picture of the realtor right there with
Yeah.
Get that Jack's picture.
it.
I told him.
It's got the tie on it, so.
Yeah, you better grab that.
Honor
I will wear this off. So, moving on, thank you for this work, Jim. It's great. I really appreciate it, and everybody else does too.
Good committee.
My thought was that we go for one type of advertising media, like radio, 1 month, try to get a measurement of the success or failure of that, depending on how much we invest, and then go for a printed media and try to get a measurement by measuring the increase in the membership following those ads.
Not saying we need more members because we need a bigger budget.
Yeah, hello. Okay, next.
Well, that's doable. All right.
Nice.
Nice.
Natural gas, NICEAG, yes, what everybody wants to know about NICEAG. And I think that we've made a lot of progress. Ken, do you want to say a couple of things? Potential progress. Do you want to bring us up to speed from your point of view on this, or?
I probably don't know more about it right now than you do.
Okay, then I will, then you want me to?
Sure you do.
The individual, the person who is our point person on this, he's not here tonight, his name is Craig Holt, lives in Champlain Park, he's a professor at the college, his wife is a professor. He is, we've asked him to contact NICEAG directly.
He's doing it the right way, I think.
Right, there's a gentleman here, you know him?
Yeah. Joe Horner.
Horner, yeah.
He took my place. He took my job.
Bill Horner took you, and you don't resent that at all?
No.
Oh, okay.
You retired, right?
You can have it.
Bill Horner is the local representative. There's a number of people in Binghamton who will take your call and start the process. It's a fairly straightforward process. I initiated it. You can go to the NICEAG website and link up to them. They'll put you into, you can fill out a form, one of their application pages, and it goes and it starts the process. When I did that, I got a call from NICEAG in Binghamton from Paulette. Don't know her last name. NICEAG customer service, very quick and perceptive. And within 2 weeks, I got a package back, which I'm more than willing to share around and pass around. This is basically the 3 easy steps for a NICEAG application. Apply, go online, or call a number, 572-111. I also have Paulette's number. I don't know if that's verboten or if that's okay.
You call the toll-free number, you get whoever's.
Right, this number 607 is, if you go through the toll-free, do you have to go through a telephone tree and punch in a couple of
Yes,
Yes.
I went through the same process and I haven't got any information back.
I,
Or phone call,
when did you do it?
3 weeks ago.
Yesterday I filled out the application. Today I had a call from Kathy or somebody, I don't know. And they're gonna send me out the packet and the commitment letter.
Here's the packet, here's the commitment
That's-
letter.
You might not know what we're up
We
to.
can pass this
Have you
around.
heard?
You wanna take a
Well,
look? Just make sure I get
Hopefully, we're
that.
trying to get natural gas.
We're trying to get natural gas on Cumberland Head. The town tried, well, NICEAG with the town, kind of, decided when the town was going to put in the pump station at Champlain Park, that they were obviously going to have to dig a trench, and they tried to involve NICEAG in the process. And at the time, tell me if I'm wrong, according to the Public Service Commission, NICEAG had to have a number of people that would sign commitment letters in order to make the project feasible. Because the Public Service Commission said you can't lay 5 million miles of pipe for one person. So there had to be a number of people. And they fell short by a handful.
11 people.
Yeah, it wasn't very many. And there were other problems as well along the line, but at any rate, they fell short. So now, with the price of oil, what it is, a lot of people in Champlain Park and on Cumberland Head Road, at that point it was only for Champlain Park, have kind of thought, well, we'd like to have natural gas out here, and Ken kind of got the ball rolling, and, you know, and Bobby threw this idea out, and, you know, we might be able to make it happen, right?
Possibly.
If we get enough people.
I don't know, I don't know, Ken
It's
is,
never gonna happen for the whole head.
No, but it could happen on this side, I mean, up through Champlain Park, it's,
Champlain Park has got the most
Density.
the most density.
right.
But to just go from the end of the line that, where it is now, across from, Champlain, it's 2 miles to Champlain Park, and it's about 2 miles in the park. So that's 4 miles of pipe. Now, there's 2 different scenarios that they work under. If you call and ask, request gas, they'll tell you, they'll extend 100 feet of gas main for each customer, each committed customer. It's one that signs that letter. So that's, for 4 miles of pipe, that's a lot of customers. When they got the franchise, the town of Plattsburgh, they made an agreement with the town that they would extend the gas main 1 mile for each 21 heating customers.
Okay, heating customers.
Yes. Okay. Now that's, everybody's gonna be heating customers.
Right,
Just about everybody.
okay. So you got 4 miles, so you need 84 people.
Well, that original franchise, it said in there 21 per mile for the first 7 years. I think NICEAG has to show a profit after the 7th year with whatever money they've invested. So I don't know if that 21 per mile
Is still
is
invalid.
still valid, or if it, I haven't found anybody that can tell me that.
Now, why would they not do all of Cumberland Head?
Non-profitable.
Well,
Ken, they did, like they,
Well,
at home, they did Katyville, and they did Route 374, because I'm on it.
Yeah.
And, boy, we're not,
21.
I think the
we don't
key,
have very many houses because of the river. Most everything is just on one side of the road.
Where they going, Katie, on Otto Road?
No, they came right up 374, right up,
To the prison.
right up, and then they went up the Trudeau Road to the prison, and then down to Saranac School.
They went up Buck's Corners, then up the Ryan Road to the prison.
Is that the way they went? Yeah, okay.
I laid that out.
Yeah,
And
but,
it went down Beckett's Corners to the school.
yeah,
But that's because of the big customers on the end.
right, and then you have England Town, school district, school out here. And,
That
Cumberland
would be
Head
a big
School.
customer, but
Yeah.
Holly just told me that the superintendent told them that they don't want gas.
They did a few years ago.
Of course they do.
Boy, if
Why don't they want to?
if
Because they're
people,
idiots.
if people only realize, my bill went from just about $1,000 a month in the wintertime, my gas and electric are all one bill. It went from just a little bit under $1,000 a month to about $350 to $335.
So it's a third. It's a third.
It
Why is the
went
school
down
not,
two-thirds.
why isn't the school interested in this?
The
Why
payback
don't
was
we
less
have
than,
the school?
payback was less than a year.
Oh, yeah, and the beauty of it is, I don't know if they'll still have the same program. They did the first 100 feet free, which took them all the way to my house. So
Right.
that's the case for
Yes,
anything
you
except
get
for
100 feet,
driving.
you get 100 feet of service free.
And they give me $500 for converting my furnace.
Yeah, I don't think that's his fact anymore.
I mean, I did everything because my son does that kind of work for $79.
John, can I just add a couple things here, because we're running out of time. They are still advertising energy lines, which I pulled out here, and it's a way to start Energy Smart. There are rebates for installing high-efficiency natural gas equipment. As far as I know, these rebates are still viable. I don't know, I mean, that's a serious question.
Yeah, you just got that?
I believe so. But why isn't the school asking to be on this gas line? I mean, that, to me, that's gonna kill the project, because what NICEAG wants is a huge consumer, and the project has to pay for itself to justify it to the New York State, Public Service Commission.
Yes.
So if the school pulls out, this is not gonna, it's not gonna fly.
Could we get some statistics to see the change in cost when Saranac went online? They must have been on oil prior to that.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we work through Holly with that?
Yeah,
so they'll
exactly.
go after that superintendent. But the thing is that we're working on a meeting. We want to have a public meeting, informational session, and bring up the guru from NICEAG, Maryland, sometime either the first, second, or fourth week of March, okay? And we're gonna be getting out information on that particular meeting with Maryland, I believe, the guy who took your place.
Bill Horner.
Bill Horner. And anyway, we're gonna have an information session. We're hoping to put out and let people know, residents know in Cumberland Head, that needs to be held here sometime in March. The problem is going to be that the meeting has to be held during the day, because Marilyn comes up from Binghamtown, she's coming up the night before, and so we try to get as many people here as you can, let your neighbors know about that. We're gonna post it. I'm gonna get some yard signs made, like we did for the, vote here type thing when we had the sewer, we did the last one we did. But have some signs saying NICEAG meeting and put a date on it and hopefully a time. I hope to make those signs in a couple of months with confirmations.
Who would be in charge of the 21 per mile? Who would know that?
I don't know either one of them.
Hopefully the person that's gonna come.
Because if it's 21 per mile, I don't understand why they would do all of Cumberland Head. We have more than 21 per mile in Cumberland Head with the enclave.
NICEAG has all that.
Does Jurgen Using have anything more to do with that?
Jurgen, no. He was the one that was marketing Champlain Park when they were gonna do it. He told me they were 5 commitments short. And he was positive they were gonna do the job. Because that close, you're gonna get 5 more once the pipe is.
Well, I understand the reason why it didn't go through was because they wanted to put it in the same ditch as the pipe for the sewage or something, and the contractor wanted 3 times as much as,
There's several reasons why it didn't go.
yeah.
They don't go exactly in the same ditch. The sewer is 6 feet deep and
Right.
down, nobody wants the gas right on top of the sewer.
Well, we did that in Wallace Hill.
Well, you trench it over.
Yeah, but they had,
You dig a 2-foot wide trench and you dig another trench, 2 feet deep, right next to it.
but that
It's the
was,
same operation.
and you wouldn't want to do that again, because what we did is we got in an awful peeing match over who was responsible for finishing the grading off and what have you and all that stuff.
Right.
So it's better.
Okay, well, the thing is that we need to have a cluster of people. We think we do, if we include the school and all the residents. NICEAG has a lot of statistical data on the electricity, the utility users, that they can provide us. We've asked them if they can do a mailing for us, and looking into that, you'll see that in an email.
They used to do that.
They're checking that for us, and they're checking something else for us, I'm not exactly sure. But we'll definitely let everyone know that there is going to be a meeting. I'm thinking hopefully we can put this on video, put it on our website, get it on Channel 15.
But you need to know the audience. Is that going to be Rocky Point and Cumberland Head Road to Champlain Park and the houses after Champlain Park, or how far out, you know?
We
you don't know
advertise
that
it.
audience.
Yeah, you advertise it as if there's a possibility to do the whole thing.
Right.
Okay, then that's the
The more
best thing.
consumers, the more cut they're gonna like.
Okay.
It ends right now at the motel over here, and that's where it stops.
The most important thing, I've been trying to stress this, you sign that commitment letter and send it back.
Yep.
That's what I got.
I've heard so many people say, well, I'll sign it when the plane gets here, you know?
No, you can't do that, and they need to stress that when they
Yeah.
come.
Yep.
So many people.
And you got like 2 years, isn't that, after you sign the commitment letter?
90 days from when they run the service to your house. But I know a lot of people that.
I think it would be helpful, it would be helpful
So if
too
we have
for,
this meeting with
the
90,
people.
can we get the press here?
Yeah.
We should be able to.
One thing I want to add though too, and maybe somebody can help us do this in this committee, that NICER committee, is that some people go out and cost out. What's the conversion costs to go from oil to gas? What does it entail?
Maryland will have all those figures.
Yep.
We're good to go.
Excellent.
You'll have all those
That's
figures.
fine to see.
Get a new furnace, some of them.
I just bought one.
Well, there's a lot of things you can do. You can do your furnace heat, you can do a gas stove, you can do a gas grill, you can do,
Right.
That's all in the letter.
Water heater.
yeah, water heater.
Little gas fireplace.
All right, thank you everybody for being here.